really going to break down how Black American names are not ghetto, how they actually tie you to your homeland, which is the Americas, and how the ritual of naming your children names like Tyquan, Shaniqua should continue. And please do not let ignorant people stop you from using those names. Welcome back to Viral Debates. I am the pulchritudinous intellectual, and per usual, I am not here to offend nobody. I'm just here to tell the truth. When I was younger, I would only make fun of somebody's name if they could make fun of my name, because my name is Arabic, and lots of people would pronounce my first name wrong. My name is Qadirah. People would call me Qadirah. People would call my last name, they would be like Abu Busha or whatever. My last name is an Arabic last name, a part of the 99 attributes. My middle name is Belkis. So people would make fun of my name. So if you made fun of my name, that's when I came for yours. So when I was in college, I took a linguistics class, and I really only took that class because I wanted to have a writing credit and a science credit. And I could be wrong. I graduated over 8 years ago, so I could be wrong, but it satisfied both. And I really needed something that would satisfy both. So I took the linguistics class thinking like, oh, language, I'm passed. I got a very nice C because I was surprised that at the fact that there are so many verbs, and also linguistics is hard. But what I took away from that class is that linguistics literally can tell you your history faster than any history book. Like, when you understand the language of the original people, the language of your people, you really can see where they came from faster than any history book DNA test can tell you. And so after taking that class, I didn't really dive right into the history that I'm about to share today. But as I started growing up, buying a home, and seeing different cities, I started to think to myself, oh, a light bulb went off. I made fun of Black American names like Shaniqua when they came from me, right? But those names are not ghetto. Those names are actually very much so indigenous. And I'm going to tell you how my name, which is Arabic, also ties to the naming of indigenous Black Americans, because there was a period where a lot of Black Americans gave their children Arabic names, but I'm gonna tie it together for you. So I want to start with prefixes la, de, sha, and the endings like quan or qua. So la Quasia, la Toya, la Nika, la Nikwa. Those are things that are very, very indigenous. And you'll find these clues in your rivers, in your places. For example, Lackawanna is a very famous name that I keep seeing on the streets. And I looked it up. It connects back to the Lenni Lenape tribe. Now, if you look up Lenni Lenape right now, you're going to get very light-skinned red people. And not that's not to say that those people are a specific type, but they always try to show you Lenni Lenape people looking like what an Asiatic Native American would look like today. The Lenni Lenape tribe was huge, okay? And so there were variations in skin tones. And there's even something on the Delaware Constitution that refers to the Lenni Lenape people as Moors. And so I say that to say that la in front of a name that we used to do a lot, quite often, that is indeed an American indigenous tradition. And so LaQuasia, Latoya, I have a cousin named LaQuasia, LaDeja, Lanika, Latanya. There's so many of those. And then we're going to go to our DE, Deshaun, Dijon. I can't even think of, I'm blanking. The DE might come off as German. You'll find a lot of last names with D, E. And so folks will say that's German. Again, you have to be very careful about naming something and being absolute, because my husband, for example, has found European ancestry in his genealogy. And the European ancestry that he found is not necessarily white European. I know you have to decolonize your mind. I know that when we think of Native American, European, we think certain skin tones. But when you really dig deep, a lot of Europeans were very much so melanated. And I'm not trying to blackwash everything. I'm just, again, telling the truth. And so there was this slave who led a slave revolt. His first name is Charles, and his last name starts with D-E. I can't remember it. Down in New Orleans. And so when you see Deshaun, I've even seen Deniqua, those prefixes also correlate back to Black American indigenous names. Now I'm going to go to Shah, and this is where it connects to that Arabic Hebrew. Arabic and Hebrew is very similar. So more so Hebrew than anything. But I want to give you an example. My brother's name is Shawwal. Shawwal is the month after Ramadan. Very Arabic Muslim name. But that Shah is found a lot in indigenous Black American names. You got Shaquan, Shaniqua, Shaquita. And so what I found in my research is that we're going to skip to Shaniqua. So the Qua it means sacred woman. And then you're going to find that Qua a lot in Cherokee language. And here's a fun artifact. Okay, this is where I blow your mind. So there's an artifact in Tennessee called the Back Creek Stone that was found. And upon finding this artifact, or this stone rather, the people, the archaeologists and the anthropologists were trying to decipher what the words were. And they couldn't. Excuse me, let me go to this. All right, so they go to the stone, they find the stone, and they're trying to decipher what these words mean. So again, going back to Shaniqua, I find it very interesting that Shaniqua translates into Cherokee and also translates into Hebrew. So when I looked up Shaniqua in Cherokee, like I said, meant sacred woman, and I believe Shaniqua in Hebrew meant God's gracious. Let me just double check. God is gracious. Okay. And so you will find that Shah showing up a lot in Black American names. Okay. That is sacred. And that is the one area in which linguistics, period, is the one area in which others have not been able to appropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like our Av, I would say Black Bav, because African American is a misnomer, major misnomer. Our names, you don't find no white Shaniquas, you don't find no Jewish Shaniquas. So let's look at this stone. The Back Creek Stone was professionally excavated in 1889. I'm going to skip. It says here, in the 1960s, Henriette Mertz and Corey Aku both noticed the inscription when inverted from Thomas's orientation that of the above photograph. Instead appeared to be ancient Semitic. The late Semitic languages scholar Cyrus Gordon confirmed that it is Semitic. Okay. And it is specifically Paleo-Hebrew of approximately the 1st or 2nd century AD. According to him, the first 5 letters to the left, comma shape, were divided or read from left to right for Judah. He noted the broken letter on the farm left is consistent with mem, in which the word would instead read for the Judeans. And so they found this stone in Tennessee. It was supposed to belong to the Cherokee, but the stone is reading Hebrew. And they're like, what the hell? What happened? Like, I thought, And so again, bringing it back to linguistics, I find it very interesting that a name like Shaniqua translates in both Cherokee, meaning sacred woman, and Hebrew, meaning God is gracious. And so there's no need, I know a lot of Shaniquas, there's no need to ever feel the need to be embarrassed of your Black American name. It's actually the name that connects you to your motherland. And when they steady trying to connect you to Africa some way, somehow, but there's little clues that really will connect you to your motherland, which is the Americas. So that's one part. Now I'm going to tell you my story, which is crazy and ironic. So I had my daughter at 20 years old. I didn't expect to have my daughter at 2 pounds 2 ounces. She was born premature. So I had her at 28 weeks, way before she was supposed to be born. And she was supposed to be born in July. So I really wanted a name that rhymed with July. So I named her, and I also wanted the name to start with a Z. I'm sorry, y'all. Excuse me, my baby. Okay, so I really wanted it to start with Z, but end with something that rhymes with July. So I said, okay, the 9. And then 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks after that, I had really thought about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my grandparents who are Muslim would be upset because I didn't give her a Muslim name. But I do remember them saying Arabic or Hebrew is okay. And then they also said it must have a meaning. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just made up a name. It doesn't have a meaning. Let me look this name up. And so I looked the name up, and ironically, the name transferred to Hebrew, and it means God's gift, or Arabic, gift from God. And I was just like, wow. So I said that to say that when your mama was naming you Shaniqua, I'm pretty sure she was not privy to the ancestral connection that I'm now discovering about Black American names. Neither was I, but one thing that you have to understand is that it is very innate, it is very divine, and linguistics is one of those things that it's like body memory. And so they can try to do what they want to do to disconnect you from the land, but your body and your ancestors will make sure that you are connected as long as you are spiritually inclined. And so when our older folk, people who are like 40, 50, when they was naming certain people, Shaniqua, Deshawn, Shaquan, LaQuasia, Latoya, they had that divine, that divine feeling, and they just didn't know. They probably didn't know, and they probably was just naming the names, not knowing that these are big clues to your connection to the Americas. And I experienced that. Like I literally was stunned. I'm like, wow, Hebrew name. Same thing happened with my second daughter. My second daughter was way more prepared. She was born at 40 weeks. The difference is I didn't know that her name, which also had a meaning, I didn't know that it was indeed just Hebrew. And so both of my children have Hebrew names. And again, there is a lot of history on how, if you watch Hebrews to Negroes, there's a lot of history on how a lot of Hebrew tribes lived in the Americas way before colonization. And those tribes became other tribes, like through ethnogenesis, like Cherokee, like Yamasee, like Catawba. And you'll find a lot of history on that. And so that connection on that stone is there. So just keep that in mind when you are calling names like Shaniqua and things of that stuff. Ghetto. Last thing I want to review, or last two things, is that, again, linguistics will tell you your history better than anything. So Quan, okay, Quan is the masculine version of Qua. So Qua is woman, Quan is man. Ya is spirit. Sha is sacred. So my daughter was getting surgery, and her anesthesiologist, he was Asian, and his name was Kwon, spelled Kwon. Immediately, I texted my husband. I'm like, this is crazy. The Asian man name is Kwon. And so I started doing some research, and I found that in Korean and Chinese, Kwon means like leader. And so I was like, wow, Kwan means leader in Korean and Chinese. And I'm just double checking again. Yes, power, authority, or right, leadership, linked to noble families and leadership, like Taekwondo, where Kwan means fist or fight, representing body parts. And so it's a surname, authority, power. Okay, and so I was just thinking to myself, like maybe maybe the Asiatic, Black American men were right, calling themselves the original Asiatic people, because Quan in Cherokee also means leader, also translates to leader. And so how ironic. And so when your name ends with Quan, that means leader. And that is a great thing. And so let's keep the Quans going. Okay. Now, there was a point in history where a lot of Black American people were naming their children after like Arabic names. So then you got your Tariqs, you got me, Qadirah, you got a lot of Arabic names. And again, Arabic and Hebrew can translate very easily. And so again, to me, that was that ancestral, spiritual connection that is just overlooked. So another thing that I want to mention is the Kafita Cheki people are an ancient tribe in South Carolina, southeast of America, and they are known to be present during 1300 AD. When the original slaves came here on a Hispanic ship by the Petey River, they rebelled, killed everybody, and ran into the swamps with the Kafita Cheki people. I did a reel on that on my page. But I bring up them because their name, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yo, this sounds like one of my homegirls, like Kafita Cheki, Chiquita people. Like, this sounds like our people, no? And so another clue is maps, rivers, bodies of waters. Like I said, Lackawanna. I'm like, what European man name is Lackawanna? I've never seen a Native American today with one of these names. I've never heard of it. I just haven't. And so it shows you, linguistics shows you a lot. And that is my main point here. And I want people to understand that you truly can never be disconnected from what's yours. And the Most High is going to drop clues everywhere. You got to be the one to catch the clues. And I'm catching the clues, and I don't care what anyone says. There's a famous quote by Dr. Frances Cress Welston, where I'm going to read it actually. She says something that is so powerful to me in Isis Papers. So she says, in fact, Black people seeking a scientific approach to the problem similarly must begin acting as scientists, observing the situation, recording their own data, and following up with their own analysis of their observations, experience, and data. Their own analysis will then inform them of what it is that they, as Black people, need to do to achieve their goal objectives. So she goes on, but essentially, the facts that I'm telling you today has not been studied intentionally because it's going to reveal so much. And a lot of the times we don't hear about the Bat Creek Stone. We don't hear about certain mounds in America. We don't hear about these things because it's going to, the archaeologists and the anthropologists that find these things, they keep them under wraps. You see them in little articles. They're not big news. And so, like Dr. Frances Cress Welston says, we have to be the one to do the research to really dig deep and to really connect these things. Our parents didn't wake up and just say Shaniqua. Nobody does that. And you won't find a Shaniqua anywhere worldwide. Our parents didn't wake up and say, okay, I'm going to name my son Tyquan because of somebody overseas. That's something that one person did and we all just kind of kept doing. And I will also say this. I find that in the Caribbean, there's a lot of similar names that keep circling as well. And in my mind, because a lot of the American tribes, I'll say indigenous North American tribes, did start in the Caribbean as well. You'll see a lot of Sharons. You see a lot of, I've seen Lashanas in the Caribbean. A lot of names circle over there as well. The shared linguistics definitely shows shared history. But again, my main point is don't let people bully you out of your homeland. And I say that to say because a lot of people are changing the way that we name our children. But we need them. We need that tradition. We need that Shaniqua, that Tyquan, Shaquan, Deshawn, just Sean, Shawnee, right? I knew a lot of Shawnees growing up. Shawnee is a tribe, right? Wana, Quita, Qua, Qua, Quan. So I hope that makes sense to you.